Let's keep watch now on the JKIA fire and the operations update there. Kenya Airways says it has lost more than 300 million shillings in revenue due to that fire that happened on Tuesday morning. CEO Titus Naikuni, however, says the airline will not be seeking legal redress over the incident.
By Sunday afternoon, 80% of operations at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport had resumed. Although in makeshift departure and arrival lounges, the long queues of stranded passengers witnessed after the Wednesday morning fire were easing up.
I expected that there will be a lot of problem, but then when I have actually gone to the information desk, we were told that the domestic flights will be actually flying from the cargo center.
And everything went on well. Yeah. There were no delays. I was on time and everything is perfect, just perfect.
It's not all rosy, however, for the airport authority. KAA is now scrambling to ensure its image remains intact even after this crisis. Airlines are also scrambling to maintain their image to their customers. Kenya Airways CEO is already counting the losses that his airline has incurred.
For sure, we've lost revenue. And I talk of revenue, not loss. I'm talking of revenue. Revenue is earnings that you've earned before you start spending it. We've lost right now is around $4 million.
The preliminary report on the airport fire is set to be released Monday. KAA officials, however, chose not to comment on the cause of the fire. They maintain that their response was as swift as possible.
This incident happened at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when we have our peak passenger time. So the arrivals and departing. It was very quick response, and that's why there were no fatalities.
As hundreds of passengers continue with their journey of Nairobi via the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, airlines in conjunction with the Kenya Airports Authority are currently trying to get the functions of this airport back to the 100% mark. In the meantime, investigators are still probing the cause of the fire as well as the time of response that it took the relevant authorities to reach to the scene of the incident. Asha Mwilu reporting for KTN in Nairobi.
Asha, thank you. To health matters now. And according to the World Health Organization, a child dies every 30 seconds from malaria in Africa. Now, there's hope that these statistics may soon be a thing of the past following huge strides by U.S. researchers in the development of a malaria vaccine. KTN's Angel Katusia tells us more.
The family of Asman Sao, a father of 9, knows only too well the effects of malaria. Malaria in this family has become a routine disease, leaving a huge hole in the household budget, resulting from hospital bills Asman had to contend with.
Kwa wiki naweza kupeleka mara 3 kwa sababu saa ingine mama mgonjwa, saa ingine mtoto. Mimi niko na wajukuu hapa. Now what in watu wangu.
To Asman, who lives in Nyanza on the shores of Lake Victoria, preventing malaria infections in his family is a hackling task.
Vile mvua inanyesha, umbu inakuwa mingi, inauma watoto na watu wazima, malaria inakuwa mingi kabisa. Tena natusumbua, tena inaua.
Na bahari hapo, umbu inazaa kweli, ikifika saa 12 huwezi kukaa chini. Inafaa uwe ndani ya net. Na uwezi ku afford kununua hiyo net. Saa zingine ulipewa net mwaka 2 iliyopita na hiyo net zaeka.
Effects of malaria are so familiar to them, but overcoming the disease has proven to be elusive.
Kuna female anopheles mosquito. Hiki kiuma tu dakika moja ina affect mtoto katika ndani ya mifuko.
Their tales of malaria-related deaths are part of the disturbing statistics. According to the World Health Organization, there are estimated 219 million cases of malaria and an estimated 660,000 deaths. 85% of the malaria cases and 90% of malaria deaths are from Africa. And so the news that U.S. researchers reported a breakthrough in the search for a vaccine for malaria is definitely good news. According to the researchers, the vaccine protected 12 out of 15 patients from the disease when given in high doses. Studies have shown that it takes more than 1,000 bites from mosquito over time to build up a high level of immunity, making it an impractical method of widespread protection. So, a U.S. biotech company has taken lab-grown mosquitoes treated them, and then extracted the malaria-causing parasite, all under sterile condition. The living but weakened parasites are then counted and placed in vials where they can then be injected directly into a patient's bloodstream to trigger immunity. Researchers, however, say though the results were promising, more extensive field testing will be required. Nevertheless, it marks the first time any vaccine trial has shown almost 100% success. This vaccine could just be what will save families such as this out of the burden of malaria. And in Africa, where a child dies every 30 seconds from malaria, this will be a reprieve. Angel Katuse, KTN, Sunday night.
Deputy President William Ruto today paid tribute to veteran politician Kenneth Matiba, known for his Saba struggle for multi-party democracy. KTN's Asham Wiluna reports on Ruto's visit to the ailing Matiba and the government's intervention in his financial woes.
Edith Matiba welcomes guests into her house. Today, her husband Kenneth Matiba is hosting a special visitor, the Deputy President.
Very good.
Sometimes seeming lost in the frenzy around his house, Matiba simply smiles. His declining health has kept him away from the limelight, and now the DP is leading other local leaders in visiting Matiba at his Mombasa home. The mission? To help the former opposition leader out of his financial nightmare, as Matiba is now said to be unable to foot even his medical bills. It's hard to believe that this is the same man who led a revolutionary campaign for multi-party democracy back in 1992. A renowned politician, Matiba came short of winning the presidency on the same year, taking second position after former President Daniel Arap Moi. Matiba was also one of the richest men in Kenya, boasting a chain of hotels such as the Alliance Hotels and schools such as Hillcrest. All that is now part of a fairy tale that Matiba and his wife Edith can narrate to their guests. They reside in the only property that is still under his name.
I would really hope that wherever you have been elected, you leave a mark that is lasting.
This country is a lot better, a lot freer, better flow of ideas. We compete in a much more robust environment because Kenneth Matiba did it for us, and we want to say thank you very much.
Matiba's wars began in 2001 when the Barclays Bank of Kenya began auctioning off his chain of hotels over a 1.8 billion shilling debt. Even though his family tried to intervene, Matiba eventually lost all his hotels, save for one which is in a dilapidated condition. He also lost his Hillcrest group of schools. The former politician also sold his 22% stake on carbon dioxide manufacturer Cabasid for 418 million shillings. Matiba's company Kamlaka Venture, which owned the People Daily, was also acquired by MediaMax Limited, which is linked to the Kenyatta family. Matiba's final hope is that the current government will heed his plea and compensate him for the detention and torture he faced at the Committee Maximum Prison under the Moi administration. Asham Wilu, KTN, Sunday night.
Well, his sacrifice is certainly remembered, and we do wish him good health. Let's move on to other news now. In politics, and Deputy President William Ruto is promising that the Jubilee government will resolve the thorny issue of land at the coast. Ruto says the government will issue title deeds and eradicate the squatter problem. And as Rita Tanina now reports, the tour of the coast by the Deputy President is part of efforts by the government to woo the region that gave the Jubilee coalition a big miss during the general election.
It was a busy weekend for Deputy President William Ruto, who toured parts of the coastal region, and he came bearing goodies. From the launch of a water project to the setting up of 3 middle-level colleges.
We have a budget of about 500 million shillings. At least 160, 170 million shillings in 3 constituencies.
The government, it appears, is out to win the confidence of residents at the coast, a region that largely voted for the Code Coalition, with Jubilee recording a poor performance during the March polls.
Tunajua ni kwa sababu gani hamukutupigia kura. Tunajua. Sisi hapana wakumbavu, tunajua. So, na tutajua vile tutafanya.
The government, keen on changing the situation, is now promising to tackle problems that have bedeviled the coastal region, key among them land ownership.
And we have a government program, comprehensive, to ensure that working with the local leaders, we ensure that we tackle this challenge of squatters in our country.
Land remains an emotive issue at the coast. The region has thousands of squatters, and title deeds have been elusive for hundreds of people.
Every citizen must not live as though they are refugees in their own country.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to visit the coastal region later this month, and according to his deputy, addressing the thorny issue of land will be his main agenda.
Mheshimiwa Rais mwenyewe atakuwa hapa kushughulikia jambo hilo kwa sababu watu wa pwani ni wa Kenya.
The issue of land at the coast has proved a headache for successive governments. Ruto's visit to the coast may have prepared a soft landing for the president when he visits. But tackling the land problem will be a much harder task, whose progress will be keenly watched. Rita Tinina, KTN.
And now to yet another unsettling story from Nyeri. A traffic police officer in Nyeri town is said to be undergoing treatment after his girlfriend reportedly chopped off his private parts. The officer is said to have disagreed with his girlfriend on Friday night when she fished out a knife and cut off his manhood. The officer was rushed to a local private hospital by a colleague while bleeding profusely and was treated there. The lover is said to have visited the officer in his house at the police line when the quarrel occurred. Police have since launched a manhunt for the woman who is said to have been in that relationship with an officer for just 1 week. All right, to devolution matters now, and governors from the 47 counties have been invited for talks with the deputy president tomorrow. The meeting seeks to resolve disagreements over the government's decision to withhold funds intended for road construction in the counties. Our Aaron Ocheng now reports.
A stormy meeting is expected Monday between Deputy President William Ruto and governors, with the county chiefs accusing the central government of dishonesty in the manner in which several devolution processes are being handled. The governors are angered by the decision of the government to retain 29 billion shillings meant for county roads and a recent publication of a partial list of counties to take over devolved functions. But speaking in Mombasa, the deputy president insisted that the central government is fully committed to ensure that enough funds are sent to the counties.
Tutaketi chini kesho kukubaliana na serikali za county vile mambo yataendeshwa kitaratibu sambamba na sheria ili kusitokee vizuizi ama pingamizi katika ile kazi ya serikali za county kutimiza ahadi zao na mipango yao.
The governors and some senators say the meeting, which will also incorporate the court fraternity, is meant to iron out differences emerging from disbursement of funds to the counties and come up with a framework on the transfer of some functions from the government to the counties. They are also considering moving to courts to object to the publication of the devolved functions, citing contravention of the Constitution. The notification of the 13 counties to take over devolved functions, published on August 2nd, has angered the rest of the governors, accusing the central government of double standards. The Code Coalition has accused the Jubilee government of frustrating the devolution process.
Tunataka pesa siye Homa Bay count, na Machakos count, na JKIA count, na zile zingine ili tujenge taifa letu kwa usawa.
We refuse to implement devolution. Are they mad or not? And when Kenyans are asking questions because they are tired, they are saying it is the siren that the Prime Minister has.
governors interpreted the publication as an attempt to preempt the stakeholders meeting at which parties were to agree on the number of functions and how they shall be devolved.
What I want to do is to ensure that devolution takes root. Why I want devolution to take root is so that we can get poverty out of the villages, so that we can grow this country at the levels the Asian countries have grown.
Ruto will host the meeting at his official residence in Karen a week after the first round of talks, at which the governors insisted they would press on with their campaign for referendum to amend the constitution in order to secure more funding for counties. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
And this story forms the basis of our discussion on Checkpoint tonight. We are asking, is a referendum on the Constitution necessary to save devolution, as former Prime Minister Raila Odinga put it? Or are those calling for a referendum really pushing for a revolution and not devolution, as was voted in by Kenyans? Back again with us tonight is Atieno Ndomo. She is a social policy analyst. Professor Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst, and strategist Moses Kuria. I'll be taking to that empty seat in a short while. That's all coming up a little later in the program. Let's take a look at what's coming up just ahead on KTN Sunday night. Isaac Ruto, the politics of the man and more. Stay with us.